When people think of a millionaire, they usually imagine a high paying career, a tech role, a business owner, someone earning six figures. It feels reasonable to assume that wealth comes from impressive income. But real life keeps challenging that idea. There are well documented cases of people who spent most of their lives earning around $30,000 a year, working ordinary jobs like janitors or gas station attendants who quietly built portfolios worth several $1 million. No luxury lifestyle, no obvious signs. In some cases, even close friends had no idea. That creates a real contradiction. If one person earns 3 times more lives in the same economy and still ends up with less income, can't be the deciding factor. Something else must be doing the work behind the scenes. That something isn't luck or secret deals. It's structure, how money is handled protected and allowed to compound over long periods, often without drawing attention. I'm Alex. Today we'll break down a set of quiet strategies that show how people with modest paychecks build real wealth, moving from simple habits to systems that work in the background. And it starts with the first decision that quietly separates people who build wealth from those who always feel behind the moment your paycheck arrives. Pay yourself first. Paying yourself first means your money gets instructions before your lifestyle does. The moment your paycheck hits, a portion leaves automatically before rent, before groceries, before you scroll delivery apps deciding what's for dinner. That order matters more than the amount. Most people wait to see what's left at the end of the month. Usually nothing is. Not because they're irresponsible, but because spending expands to fill whatever is available. When income rises, expenses follow. That pattern doesn't break on its own. A simple example shows why this works. On a $2,500 monthly take-home pay, an automatic $50 transfer happens immediately. It's small enough not to hurt, but permanent enough to change behavior. After a few paychecks, you stop noticing the money is gone. What you do notice is that saving no longer feels optional. This flips a quiet switch. Saving becomes non-negotiable, like a utility bill. You wouldn't skip electricity because the balance felt tight. Treating your future the same way changes how every other decision gets made. People often say they'll start saving when they earn more. In reality, higher income usually just creates better reasons to spend. Starting first, even with small numbers, trains your system for bigger ones later. Wealth doesn't begin with a raise. It begins with priority. Track every dollar. Tracking every dollar changes behavior faster than any budget rule, not because it restricts spending, but because it removes the mystery. Most money doesn't disappear in big mistakes. It leaks out in small, forgettable choices that feel harmless in the moment. A coffee on the way to work. A delivery fee that costs more than the food. A quick run to a big box store that somehow totals $57 when the list was one item. None of these feel like overspending, but together they quietly decide whether you make progress or stay stuck. When people look at their account and wonder where the money went, the answer is usually repetition, the same small charges week after week. Writing them down using an app, a spreadsheet, or even the notes on your phone creates an immediate pause. And that pause is powerful. Here's what tends to happen next. Patterns show up. Food spending is higher than expected. Subscriptions are still running that no one uses. Convenience costs more than planned. That moment isn't about guilt. It's about clarity. Once money is visible, it becomes cooperative. You stop guessing and start choosing. Spending turns intentional instead of accidental. And when your dollars have a job, they stop wandering off without telling. Live below your means. Living below your means isn't about saying no to everything. It's about buying breathing room. Many people earning solid incomes still feel tense about money, while others earning less sleep just fine. The gap isn't income, it's margin. Lifestyle costs creep in quietly. A nicer apartment because it feels like the next step. A car payment that fits the month but not the future. Weekly brunches that don't feel expensive until they're permanent. None of this looks reckless. It just removes flexibility. Here's the part most people miss. Looking successful is costly. Being financially stable is not. The people with real freedom often drive older cars, skip constant upgrades, and wear clothes that don't signal anything. Not because they can't afford more, but because they value options more than appearances. A simple rule creates instant relief, live, as if your income were 20% lower than it actually is. That gap becomes a buffer. It absorbs price, increases medical bills, or a slow month at work without panic. This is how modest earners quietly pass higher earners. They don't win by making more. They win by needing less. And once spending stays intentionally below income, money stops feeling tight. and starts working with you instead of against you. Avoid middle class debt traps. Middle class debt doesn't look dangerous. That's why it's so effective. It shows up as normal decisions financing a newer car because the payment fits using buy now, pay later, because it's interest free carrying a credit card balance because the minimum feels manageable. Nothing feels urgent, and nothing changes until years pass. Car payments are the clearest example. Stretching loans longer makes expensive cars feel affordable, but it locks future income before it's earned. The same happens with revolving credit. Minimum payments feel small, but interest compounds quietly in the wrong direction. Money that could have been building options is instead servicing the past. These traps don't make people broke overnight. They make progress impossible. When large parts of income are pre-committed, saving always feels like something that has to wait, even on a decent salary. A simple filter helps if something doesn't help you earn more. Protect what you have, or grow long-term flexibility. Be cautious about financing it. Reliable transportation may qualify. A low-interest home loan might. Lifestyle upgrades usually don't. What keeps these traps alive is social approval. No one questions a leased car or a financed vacation. But the person avoiding payments quietly buys something better, future choice. And that's where real wealth starts to separate. Make money untouchable. Saving usually fails because access is too easy. Money sits in the same account as spending one tap away from impulse. A late-night scroll turns into a purchase. A just-looking moment becomes a charge. This isn't weak willpower. It's a bad design. The fix is separation. Money meant for the future needs distance from daily decisions. A different bank, no debit card, no constant balance checking, just a quiet account that receives automatic transfers and stays slightly inconvenient on purpose. Here's how this works in real life. Someone sets up a $25 or $50 transfer every paycheck. It feels almost meaningless at first. But because it's automatic, it happens even on busy weeks or tight months. After a year, that small habit turns into thousands that never felt spendable. Out of sight changes behavior. When money isn't visible, it doesn't get mentally spent. That's why people who save this way often forget how much they've built. And that's a good thing. Trying to outdiscipline temptation rarely works long-term. Designing around it does. Once your savings require effort to touch progress, stops leaking, quietly, consistently. And for the first time, money starts staying where you intended it to be. Practice stealth wealth. Stealth wealth is choosing progress over performance. It's deciding that your financial life doesn't need an audience. Many people assume money shows itself through cars, clothes, and constant upgrades. In reality, real wealth often becomes quieter the more it grows. Look closely and you'll see the pattern. The people with the most flexibility drive older, paid-off cars. They don't rush to upgrade phones or homes every few years. Their spending doesn't spike when income does. Not because they lack options, but because they've already secured the ones that matter. This matters even more on a smaller salary. The moment others think you're doing well, pressure appears. Group trips, lifestyle expectations, subtle spending that feels social but adds up fast. Stealth wealth avoids this by staying invisible. No signals, no explanations. There's a psychological edge too. When no one knows your numbers, comparison fades. Without comparison, decisions get cleaner. Saving feels natural instead of restrictive. Progress accelerates because nothing is trying to pull it backward. Stealth wealth isn't hiding. It's protecting momentum. It trades attention for peace and applause for control. The real marker of success isn't what you show. It's how little stress money creates in your daily life. And that kind of freedom compounds best when it stays quiet. Build quiet income streams. Quiet income isn't about grinding nights and weekends. It's about adding backup to your paycheck without burning yourself out. The goal isn't to replace your job next month. It's to stop relying on one source of money for everything. Most people picture side income as loud and exhausting. Another shift, another boss, another schedule. That's not the point. The quieter options usually work better. Small digital products you build once. A simple freelance task you do a few hours a week. Flipping overlooked items online. Licensing photos or writing scripts that sell without your name attached. Here's the part that surprises people. An extra $200 a month doesn't feel life-changing. But invested consistently, it becomes meaningful over time. It adds margin, it absorbs surprises, it gives your main income breathing room. And because it's not tied to hours worked every day, it doesn't compete with your life. The loudest money online often comes with the most stress. The quiet money rarely gets talked about because it isn't flashy, but it lasts. People making progress this way aren't chasing virality, they're stacking layers. Once your income has backup, decisions feel different. You negotiate better, you stress less, and you stop feeling trapped by one paycheck. The power isn't in how fast it grows. It's in knowing you're no longer standing on a single leg. Invest small and early. Investing doesn't start when you feel ready. It starts when you stop waiting. Many people delay because the numbers feel too small to matter. $5, $20. It feels pointless compared to headlines about six-figure portfolios. That delay is expensive. Small investments change behavior before they change balances. When you invest $5 a week, you're not trying to get rich fast. You're training yourself to own instead of consume. That shift matters more than the return in the beginning. People often say they'll invest once they earn more. In practice, higher income just brings bigger expenses. The habit still isn't there. Starting early forces the habit to form while the stakes are low. By the time the numbers grow, the behavior is already automatic. Ownership is the quiet dividing line. When extra money shows up, some people spend it immediately. Others buy a piece of something that produces over time. Stocks, funds, or businesses don't care how impressive the starting amount was. They care how long the money stays invested. Time does the heavy lifting. Consistency does the rest. Starting small isn't a disadvantage, it's practice. And when your income eventually grows, you're no longer learning how to invest. You're simply adding zeros to a system that already works. Use rich math. Rich math doesn't start with income. It starts with allocation. Two people can earn the same amount and end up in completely different places because they do different math in their heads. Here's the common approach. Money comes in, bills get paid, lifestyle gets funded, and whatever's left, if anything, gets saved. That's income-based math. It feels reasonable, but it keeps you living at the edge of your paycheck. Rich math flips the order. It asks a different question: how much of this income is being converted into future freedom? Instead of budgeting around what feels good, now it budgets around impact later. A simple framework shows the contrast. Needs, wants, and wealth. Building each get a role. When wealth building is treated as optional, it shrinks. When it's treated as fixed, everything else adjusts around it. That adjustment is where progress hides. This isn't about restriction, it's about intention. Cutting distractions that quietly drain money doesn't reduce quality of life. It often improves it. Fewer payments, less clutter, lower stress. Short-term math says, I deserve this now. Rich math says, I deserve options later. And those options compound. That's why some people on modest incomes retire calmly, while higher earners feel trapped. The difference isn't intelligence or luck. It's which math they've been running month after month without even realizing it. Automate everything. Automation is what keeps progress going when motivation disappears. Most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because they rely on willpower to do it every month. Willpower gets tired, systems don't. When money moves automatically, decisions disappear. Paychecks split themselves. Savings transfer on schedule. Investments happen whether you're busy, distracted, or having a bad week. That's the advantage. You stop negotiating with yourself. Think about how often manual plans break. You meant to save this month, but an expense popped up. You planned to invest, but the timing didn't feel right. Automation ignores all of that. It acts first and adjusts life around it instead of the other way around. This is how quiet wealth gets built, not through constant effort, but through consistency that runs in the background. People who automate don't feel disciplined. They feel normal, because nothing feels optional anymore. The biggest benefit shows up over time. When systems run long enough, money starts growing without daily attention. You check in occasionally, not obsessively. That mental space matters. The goal isn't to think about money all the time. It's to think about it less because the system already is. Build it once, let it run, and allow time to do what it does best: compound quietly while you live your life. Key takeaways. Building wealth on a small salary isn't about finding a clever trick or waiting for a breakthrough year. It's about changing the structure underneath your financial life. The people who quietly pull ahead aren't more disciplined or more motivated. They've simply arranged their money so progress happens by default. Notice the pattern across everything you've seen. Money moves first, not last. Spending is intentional, not reactive. Access is limited on purpose. Growth starts small and stays consistent, and attention is kept low to protect momentum. None of this looks impressive at the moment, which is exactly why it works. Quiet wealth favors patience over visibility, and systems over effort. It rewards people who value flexibility more than lifestyle signals. If this way of thinking feels calmer, more realistic, or more sustainable than what you usually hear, that's not an accident. It's a different game entirely, and one you can keep playing without needing a bigger paycheck.